for Dr. Ben Madsen. It is what I like to call a guest lecture.
Gotta get the handshake. That's my favorite part of the entire show. All right. That was aggressive. All right. So, who am I? My name is Gregory Matthews, and I have a PhD in statistics, which means you get to call me Dr. Gregory Matthews, and I insist upon that. And all my students are here, and they're sitting right there, and they call me Dr. Matthews because they show me respect in the classroom. So my PhD is in statistics, and what I like to do is I like to take the topic of the show, and I like to do a statistical analysis of it. I like to dig into the data related to the topic, and the topic tonight is political science. And I'd like to pose a question before we start. Is political science a science? We'll figure it out. So let's start out with what is political science? I'd like to answer that with another question. What is politics? And the correct answer to this is a trash fire. And there's a picture of politics right there. That is a burning pile of garbage, which is exactly the same thing as politics. So what is political science? Political science is the study of trash fires. And here you have two political scientists studying politics. There they are. That's what you do in political science. And the man is saying to the other, hey, look, there's a pile of politics. That's my statistical understanding of what political science is. And here's the Radford University. This is their political science department. And it says, become a force for change. This is real. It says, our students take challenging classes, becoming authorities on smoldering piles of garbage, burning trash and dumpster fires. Political science opens up a world of possibilities to help you change the world. Look at how excited they are. Students eager to learn about dumpster fires. That's a real picture. The text wasn't real. I made that part up. But it's a real picture. And they're just like trying to be serious about it. And I'm like, guys, you study trash fires. Okay. So let's explore the garbage fires of the past 50 years. Let's dig into the data. Let's do that a little bit. So here's the data set that I got. U.S. presidential elections from 1976 to 2020. We have a source here. I put a DOI up there for any of you academics who are excited by DOI numbers. I put it up there. Yeah, let's get a round of applause for DOI numbers. Yeah, DOI. So this data file contains state-level returns for elections of the U.S. presidents from 1976 to 2020. So we have a lot of, we have the major parties, obviously, and we could focus on, I'm not going to focus on the major parties because that's not very interesting. We could focus on third parties like the Libertarian Party or the Green Party, but we all know the Libertarian Party is a lot of really nice ideas, but then people grow up and they realize that doesn't work in the real world. And so instead, we're going to focus on things I'm going to call drunk uncle parties. These are parties that, like, your craziest uncle would get drunk at Thanksgiving going, I'm running for president, and then he'd run under one of these parties. And these are things like Heartquake 08, The Boiling Frog, and Grumpy Old Patriots. These are all real parties that received actual votes in a presidential election between 1976 and 2020. Okay, so let's look at the period 1976 to 1992. I would call this the regular crazy period. And in 1976, Carter defeated Ford. There's a picture of Jimmy Carter's thighs. And the third party I want to talk about here is the U.S. Labor Party, and they ran a guy named Lyndon LaRouche Jr. Remember this name, he's going to come back. Some of you have heard of this man before. In 1980, Reagan murdered Carter, and there's a picture of Ronald Reagan's thighs. If you remember, this is what the for those of you young people, this may look crazy, but this is actually what happened. So close, it was so close. Reagan murdered Carter. It was a disaster. The drunk uncle party I'd like to talk about is the Down with Lawyers Party, which received 1,718 votes, and they ran a guy named Bill Gares. And here's a picture of Bill Gares. I'm sorry, I made a mistake here. That is a picture of a guy named Will Gares. It's not the same guy, but it was the only guy I could find. This is just some guy named Bill Gares on LinkedIn. I couldn't find anything about the other guy. I had to really dig deep to find stuff about Bill Gares. And I did find one thing. This is an article from the New York Times. This is a quote from that. And he says, my primary avocation, he says, is the study of zoning laws. My knowledge of the subject area has been proven in court, for whatever that means. But I found this. I was like going through like the microfiche. Remember that? Remember microfiche from the 80s? I was doing the online version of microfiche, and I was looking at old articles. And this is an actual ad from that issue of the New York Times. This is from 1980. And it is something called, if we zoom in on this, it's a legend of a hero. Excalibur from Steuben is a silver letter opener held in a crystal paperweight. Okay? This costs $2,250, which if you do that in today's dollars, it's $8,600. Do you understand how weird the 80s was? In the New York Times, they were selling letter openers in crystal things for $8,600. You can't understand how weird the 80s was unless you lived through it. I promise you, everything was AIDS. It was bizarre. What's happening in the 80s? All right. Reagan murders Mondale. There's some more pictures of Reagan's thighs. And then this happened. It got even worse in 1984. It was more red. This is impossible. And Mondale actually only won Washington, D.C. and Minnesota, and he barely won Minnesota. Barely won it. Yes, thank you for that. Don't blame her, she's from Minnesota. He barely won Minnesota. So close. Reagan murdered everyone again. That's what he did. The drunk uncle party that I'd like to talk about is the Big Deal Party. They received 892 votes nationally compared to Reagan's 54 million. There's this guy named Gerald Baker who was described by a friend as a cockeyed genius. And here he says, this is from an op-ed, this is all I can find about this guy. This is from the Northern Iowan from 1984. And this is from a letter to the editor that he wrote. He will talk about major issues, including the danger of accidental nuclear war. Do you understand how weird the 80s was? This is what people looked like in the 80s. This is two men worried about accidental nuclear war. What's crazy about this picture is that, I swear to God, these people are not, there's no irony here. They're dead fucking serious. They just thought this is what it looks like in the 1980s. This is what cool looks like. There's not a hint of irony, and it doesn't seem like they're concerned about accidental nuclear war. And so this is actually from the same place. These are returns from Iowa, and there's Gerald Baker, the Big Deal Party, and look who shows up again, our boy, Lyndon LaRouche Jr. Lyndon LaRouche, he runs all the time, he's just there. Here's a picture in 1988, Bush defeated Dukakis. There's a picture of Bush's thighs, which is a strange phrase. Actually, the tank picture defeated Dukakis. It wasn't Bush that actually beat him. If you remember this picture, the old people, I hear the old people laughing in the back. That's the tank picture that defeated him. The National Economic Recovery Party, this is one of the drunk uncle parties. Who do you think ran for this? It was your boy, Lyndon LaRouche. He ran again. He's there all the time. He's there, he's just running nonstop. I'd like to tell you how I became acquainted with Lyndon LaRouche. This is a picture. I was driving home, it's 2013. I'm driving home from work, I was a postdoc at the time, and this man was standing on the side of the road and said, "Stop here to impeach Obama." And I was like, I'll go check that out. So I walk over and I'm like snapping pictures of this guy, and I'm like, what is this guy all about? And he kind of was like on to me, and he was like, this seems weird. He was trying to block the pictures, and I was like, I need you to move, sir, so I can take a picture of what you were doing. And it's just a picture of Obama with a Hitler mustache. And I was like, oh, these people are out of their fucking minds. And then I was like, oh, this is the LaRouche people. Okay, great. But don't worry, they also hated Bush too. It's just a nonpartisan insanity, right? So this is how I became acquainted with LaRouche. Those pictures are real from 2013, and they're just sitting on my computer, and I was able to find them immediately when I saw LaRouche. Okay, so 1992, Clinton defeats Bush. There's a picture of Bill Clinton's thighs. Why don't we go ahead and zoom in on that so we can get a real good look at Bill's thighs? There you go. And that's Joe Lieberman with a UConn sweatshirt. Go Huskies. That's where I went to grad school. My God, Bill Clinton was a good-looking man. You know? Okay. All right, you guys have no idea. The presidents used to be attractive, you know what I'm saying? So Bill Clinton defeats Bush. What's crazy about this election is that an independent received 19 million votes, which is like absolute insanity to think about that. This was in my lifetime. And our boy LaRouche was running again, and he had votes under all four of these different parties, Justice and Industry, LaRouche for president. You'll notice this one down here, Freedom for LaRouche. Now why would a man who's running for president need to be run for the party for Freedom from LaRouche? It's because he was in prison at the time of this run. He was in prison for mail fraud and tax evasion. And he received 57 votes nationally from the Freedom for LaRouche party. Freedom. Let Lyndon free. Free Lyndon. Okay. And here's a picture of Lyndon LaRouche entering the courthouse. Now, I know what you're thinking. You see a picture like this, and you're saying, Greg, I would like to spend quite a bit of money to make that as a metal print so I can hang it in my house. Well, you're in luck. You can buy this. You can buy this online at Fine Art Store Warehouse. You can get a metal print of this. You can print this on metal, and they will send it to your house. Now, you're probably thinking, that's a great print, but would it look good in my living room? Well, don't worry. They can show you what it would look like in your living room. So if you're worried about that, if you want the Lyndon LaRouche picture in your living room, that's what it can get. And you know what? Now is the perfect time to order for Christmas prints and gifts from our collection. So if you're worried about what to get that special person in your life for Christmas, I would suggest a Lindsay LaRouche metal print entering the courthouse. Now, what you'll notice over here is that if you buy the 16-inch by 24-inch, it's $329.99. But you can upgrade, and you can get the more expensive one, the 24 by 36, for almost $700. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay, how many can I buy? I've done the work for you. This maxes out at $99. For $70,000, you can buy 99 LaRouche metal prints of him walking into the courthouse. Just in case you were wondering, that's math for you. Okay. So these are the lean years. I'm going to blow through these because there's nothing really interesting happened in terms of the drunk uncle parties. We had Clinton defeat Dole, but what I really want to focus on, you probably asked, can we see Bill's thighs again? I'm like, yes, I will oblige. There you go. It's for you. Okay, all right. There's Bill Clinton. In 2000, Bush defeats Gore. Okay, Supreme Court. 2004, Bush defeats Kerry. A lot of pictures of thighs. And then 2008 to 2020, these are the off-the-rails years. Obama defeats McCain, and we have the Alaskan Independent Party. A guy named Chuck Baldwin ran, and he got 1,660 votes nationally. The Alaskan Independence Party was founded in 1973. Their membership as of 2023 was 18,882. And they're a single-issue party, actually, and their single issue is legalizing moose marriage. Isn't that crazy? Love is love, guys. Come on. That's how they do things in Alaska. Love is love. Okay, 2016, I don't remember what happened that year. But anyway, what happened down here is that there was a woman named Sheila Tittle who ran for We the People Party. In the entire data set, this was the smallest number of votes that I could find of anyone who was recorded. And that's Sheila Tittle. She got 12 votes nationally, but she's in this data set for the We the People Party. There's Sheila, and I'd like to read you a quote from Sheila, and it just says, 10% FI tax, if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for the fat pig called government. Oh, Sheila. She should have got at least 15, 16 votes for that quote. Sheila. In 2020, Biden won, and we had the Constitution Party. Who do you think ran for the Constitution Party? Oh, I'm sorry, Don Blankenship. Good guess, though. Don Blankenship, also a lunatic. You might remember him of Massey Energy fame. This guy got 60,000 votes after serving a year in prison for running a mine where 29 people died in an explosion. It's crazy. This is a picture of Don Blankenship, but I want to focus. What do you notice in this picture? Yeah, his mustache is some, but what is going on here? I don't really have much to say about this. I just want to let this picture wash over all of us. Just soak it in. I don't know what's going on, but that's just like in the background. He's recording a video. Okay. And this is a quote from Don Blankenship from 4 days ago. Swamp Captain Cocaine Mitch McConnell. That's insanity. He's just out of his mind. Do you think Mitch McConnell is on cocaine? Have you seen Mitch McConnell? That's the opposite of cocaine. That's what Mitch McConnell's on. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the birthday party with Yeezus here. This is a map of where Yeezus got votes. You can see that the largest percentage of votes that he got was in Utah and Idaho, and it looks like he crushed in Vermont. And I was like, wait a second, what could explain these places? How can we build some kind of model to predict where Yeezus got a lot of votes? And then I was like, oh my God, Utah, Idaho, Vermont, white people. And so if you look at the percentage of white people in the state and the ratio of votes that he got, the slope here is 37.48. The whiter the state, the more votes Kanye got in the birthday party. What's going on, white people? I apologize to the world on behalf of white people. It's absolute insanity. And you're probably thinking, that picture looks an awful lot like the graduation cover from Kanye. Well, you're correct, because I used the colors from the graduation color. That's the attention to the meaningless attention to detail that I bring to my work. Okay? So I'd like to end where we've been talking about drunk uncle parties. What about high uncle parties? So I'd like to finish with the grassroots party. This is the number of votes that they got for years. They peaked in like 96, and there was a little where they didn't run, and then they came back. In 1988, 92, they ran this guy named Jack Herrer. This is a picture of him, which is like the best grassroots. Of course, that's what he looks like. And he's got this picture of Free Will and Franklin, but you can't see what it says, so I looked it up, and here's what it says. Free Will and Franklin says, I'll zoom in on this for you. I'll try to zoom in on it for you. There it is. Dope will get you through times of no money better than money will get you through times of no dope. Preach, Franklin, preach. And then I was like, wait a second, can I buy this online? Yes, you can. And you know what? You can buy 500 of these, and you can spend $5,000 and get 500 Free Will and Franklin posters. I'd like to finally end with Jim Carlson. That's this guy right here. I'd like to tell you the tale of Jim Carlson as we end here. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a timeline of what it was like during his presidential run. Jim Carlson, here's how it starts. September 20th, shop raided for selling bath salts. That's the beginning of his presidential run. After the raid, he filed a lawsuit to strike down Minnesota's ban on the substances. November 11, 2011, the suit was dismissed. About a year later, next spring, Florida man on bath salts eats another man's face. Do you remember this? This is right. So this is like when bath salts was in the news all the time, and this guy was his shop was shut down for bath salts raid. What would you think is a good thing to do right here? I know. Let's run for president. In June, he's like, let's go run for president. So he started running for president. In September 2012, a few months after deciding to run for president, he goes to trial. He was found guilty on 51 of 55 counts, and he was sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison. But don't worry, you can still run for president in prison. We know, LaRouche did it. What have we learned today? Politics are a trash fire. The 80s were fucking weird AF. White people love Kanye. And if it's good enough for God, it's good enough for that fat pig called government. There's a picture of Kwong as he needs it. Follow the show on Instagram. There it is. I'm a tenured moron. Follow me on all of the nonsense.
Give it up for Greg Matthews, everybody. That rocks. We're all voting fourth party in that selection. Are you guys ready for your